Good evening, everyone, and welcome this evening. My name is Kelly Smith. I have the honour and the pleasure to be Pro Vice-Chancellor International at this amazing institution, La Trobe University, and that means I get to do extraordinarily interesting events like this event that celebrate internationalisation, globalisation and cultural diversity. Before we start, I'd like to mention that we actually are sold out this evening. We're starting on time because we need to keep very strictly to time. We're expecting over the next little while for the rest of the cinema to fill up. So don't worry about the empty seats. They won't be empty for very long. As I said, we have sold out and we actually have a wait list for this evening. I would like to start this evening's proceedings by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet tonight, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders, past, present and emerging, and any Indigenous people and elders who may be with us this evening. La Trobe University is very proud to sponsor the Indian Film Festival. We have sponsored it for the past 7 consecutive years since 2011. This festival plays an incredibly important role in bringing communities across Melbourne together to celebrate Indian culture through film, music and dance. This university, La Trobe, is well placed to sponsor the festival. We are only one of 2 Australian universities to teach Hindi, and we are the only university in Australia that teaches a subject on the history, music and storytelling of popular Hindi cinema. We also have one of the largest collections of Indian literature in the country, ranking amongst institutions like the Australian National University and the National Library. And because of that, we were visited in the late 1960s by the then Prime Minister of India, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who came to campus to open the Borchardt Library because of the large collection of Indian literature that remains today, till today, one of only 2 universities in Australia that a sitting Indian Prime Minister has visited. We have a very strong focus on arts, multiculturalism, and this marries perfectly into the essence of the Indian Film Festival of Melbourne. As I said, it's great to host these cultural events, and it's an opportunity for our students, staff and alumni to immerse themselves in the diverse cultural backgrounds that make this such a special place. We have one of the most diverse student cohorts in Australia because we are in one of the most diverse areas of the country. And mentioning students, it's also important to thank the Indian Students Association of La Trobe University. We currently have at La Trobe University over 3,000 students from India studying with us, and that's out of a cohort of 8,000 international students. The Indian students is the largest single cohort, and we're delighted and pleased to have them here and delighted that the Indian Students Association is helping with this event. I would like to start the proceedings this evening by introducing the panel members, although I suspect many of the panel members may not be unknown to all of you in the audience. The first panel member is Rajkumar Hirani, Director. Also known as the magician with the Midas touch. Rajkumar Hirani is a name synonymous with blockbuster cinema that mixes commerce and commercial output with content. Hirani is widely regarded as one of the most successful and critically acclaimed filmmakers of the Hindi film industry. His films have been huge commercial and critical successes, and most have won several awards, including national awards, and have often been regarded by the media and audiences as some of the most path-breaking films in the history of Indian cinema. Abhijat Joshi, writer. Is a national award-winning writer behind successful blockbusters like Munabai, 3 Idiots and PK. He has a background in literature and is also a professor of English. And the final panel member and the convener and chair for this evening's panel discussion, Dr. Ian Woolford. Dr. Ian Woolford is the director of the Hindi language program. Round of applause, yes. Director of the Hindi language program at Trobe University. He also teaches subjects on Indian culture and cinema and holds a PhD in Hindi literature and has lived for some time in the Indian state of Bihar, where he has researched village folk song and traditions. So the event this evening is one of a sequence of activities that we've held here on campus over recent years. In 2014, you might be interested to know that the Indian Film Festival collaborated with La Trobe University to inaugurate the Sri Amitabh Bachchan Scholarship, which provides $200,000 for an Indian student to develop a thesis related to digital technology, media and communication. The prestigious scholarship was presented by Amitabh Bachchan himself at La Trobe's Bandura campus. And in 2016, the film festival and La Trobe invited Vijay Balan to launch the Educate the Educators program here at our campus in Bandura. This program awarded grants to La Trobe students to allow them to participate in a study tour of India where they were to identify opportunities for developing education sustainability in the regions of India. And tonight, of course, continuing that amazing tradition of collaboration and connection we have with the Indian film industry, we have the panel discussion tonight and, of course, the viewing of the film SANJU, which, as you know, is a biographical film following the hilarious and heartbreaking exploration of actor Sanjay Dutt's life, his battle against his own wild self and external forces that are trying to crush him, and I'm sure you will hear much more about that film as we have the panel discussion. It is a biopic on the Bollywood star and has become a phenomenal box office success. It's the highest grossing film released this year in India and one of the highest Indian grossing films of all time. So I think that's a fitting point at which I will hand over to Dr. Woolford, the chair of the panel, to lead the discussion. Please join me once again. I'd have to say it's such a great honour to have you here with us, and we really look forward to hearing from you. Thank you once again. From La Trobe, from the La Trobe community, thank you and welcome, and we look forward to hearing you this evening. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Smith. आप सब लोग जानते होंगे कि हमारे ऑस्ट्रेलिया में कि एक परंपरा है इस तरह के कार्यक्रम से पहले कि हम एल्डर्स को धन्यवाद देते हैं। तो जैसे कि प्रोफेसर स्मिथ ने कहा, मैं भी कहना चाहता हूं कि हमारा सम्मेलन जो है आज ऑस्ट्रेलिया के वुरुंजी लोगों की परंपरागत भूमि पर आयोजित किया गया है। और मैं सबसे पहले उन परंपरागत उत्तराधिकारियों को धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं।
I think the mic needs volume, I think.
मैं उनके भूतपूर्व और समकालीन बुजुर्गों और अन्य समुदायों का बुजुर्गों का भी अभिवादन करना चाहूंगा जो यहाँ पर उपस्थित हों। तो Abhijat Joshi, Abhijat Bhai, Rajkumar Hirani, Raju sir, welcome to Australia, welcome back to Melbourne, and welcome to La Trobe University. It really is a great pleasure, it's a great honor to have you here. I mean, just some of the films that Professor Smith mentioned, I think of PK, I think of Three Idiots, and for me, these are films, but they are such important moments in my life that I go back to. I remember that cinema in Patna where I saw Three Idiots. I remember the friends I was with, and whenever I hear a song from that film, whenever I think about it, I go back to that time, and it just has become a touchstone in my life that I go back to again and again, and it seems that you have achieved such a touchstone again with this film, Sanju. It's been given many well-deserved awards, including Best Film last night at the Indian Film Festival of Melbourne. So congratulations on this. And so I just have to begin by asking, Why this story? Why the biography of Sanjay Dutt? What was so important to tell this story? Why make this film?
Okay, before I answer that, actually, I want to say the kind of Hindi you spoke, none of us can, actually.
Hi.
Bravo!
Hey, yaar.
One big round of applause for him. Bravo! You hear this? You actually spoke so well, because our Hindi has turned into what we call Hinglish. Yeah. We actually mix it up with. So this is the kind of Hindi you hear only on Doordarshan. Right. And one of my cousin who stays in LA, who left India about 30 years back, she was in India and actually she couldn't follow this Hindi. So hats off to be so pure in your language.
Genuinely. Yes.
Okay, now we'll come back to why Sanju. See, actually, after PK, our last film, we were writing Munna Bhai. And we happened to meet Sanju. He was in jail. I think most of us are Indians. If people who don't know about Sanju here, I would just brief them. Sanjay Dutt is a very famous Indian actor who was in prison for 5 years. He was convicted under the Arms Act. But for 23 years, he fought a battle which was a court battle where he was presumed to be involved in a bomb blast case. So finally, he was convicted in the Arms Act. So it was a very fascinating story. And so he was out of jail. I just happened to meet him in his house. And though I worked with him earlier, I had a very professional relationship with him where I was a director and he was an actor in a film. He had never opened up. And in that period, when he came out on parole, he was sitting alone in his house. I think he was venting out. He wanted somebody to hear about his life, what has exactly happened. And now he didn't care. So he opened up and started saying things which I had never known. So that was one evening which lasted from 5 in the evening. I'd gone to his house. Till 3 I was there in the morning. Came back home. Next day I was working on my earlier film, PK. I was editing. Again, he called up at 4. He said, "What are you doing? Why don't you come?" And though I didn't want to go, but I realized he just was a lonely man then. So again, I went to his house. The second day, I felt that as a filmmaker, we are very greedy for content. You know, if you sit here and give us great stories, we'll make a film on you. So he was coming up with, because when you write fiction, you have to create scenes. This man was giving us scene after scene, scene after scene. So a second day, I called up Abhijat, who was in Ahmedabad then. I said, "Abhijat, come to Mumbai. And I think there's something very interesting happening. I don't know whether there's a film there. Let's hear him out." So that meeting, which started by me meeting him for 2 days, turned into a meeting for 25 days. That's the amount of days he was out on parole then. Every evening we met him. We just recorded and let him went out. After he left, we had a chat and we thought to ourselves that though he is a man who's not an achiever, most films are about people who achieve something in life. He's not a man who's really achieved something in life, but there's still a story. There's a story of a father and son. There's a story of a friend which the world doesn't know. People know about his story that he was into drugs and he was this thing, but there's a far bigger story which is engaging, which is entertaining, which eventually will also say something. So we actually dropped Munna Bhai, which made all commercial sense to do Munna Bhai. And we said, let's keep this aside and let's say this story which has fallen into our laps.
Abhijat, so same question
Yes.
to you. What drew you to this story?
Yeah, I mean, how many of you have already seen it? What no, there are a few. There are a few. I could see that some have not seen it. But I mean, majority has seen it. So, so there are moments that Sanju described, which were...
Come.
Come, please sit.
Please sit.
Bayat chahiye.
Sorry. There are moments that Sanju described from his life, which no writer can invent. It's impossible. For instance, for me, the key moment was when he said that he was so drugged out at the time of his mother's death in the hospital that he didn't realize whether when she touched his forehead and called out his name, whether that really happened or he was hallucinating. So here was a man sitting in front of us and talking like this, which was absolutely astonishing. And the quality of his conversation was that of a sort of a confessional. He was holding back nothing. And even when we put a recorder in front of him, he was saying things which are absolutely explosive. So he was fearless. He didn't seem to care. He trusted Raju completely. That he never for once said that, oh, this can't go into the movie. So on the contrary, he said that these are the kind of mistakes that are made, from which people can probably learn. You can learn either from someone's great example, or you can learn from the mistakes of others. And he was very clear that I'm opening this out. So it was like an open heart surgery. He had taken his heart out and put it on the table in front of us. And as writers, how can you resist something like that?
Wonderful. Raju, you mentioned these stories. You mentioned that he told you these stories, and you almost couldn't believe them. The things he was saying is what you just said now. You brought up the issue of trust, the trust that he had in you. A question that I'm having, and a lot of people have been asking me, is what about our trust in this film? How can we know that either what he is telling you is true, or even what you're presenting? Because we know you've taken some liberties. How do we know what's real? How do we know what isn't real?
See, that was the first question we have, because you can't make a biopic on a person based on his version. That's the first thing. So after we heard the story from him for 25 days, the first thing we did was met the commissioner of police, who was the one who had investigated that story, Mr. Rakesh Maria. And for us, it was essential to know the legal side of the story first. So my first question to him was that everybody knows that he had a gun. I want to know the extent of his involvement in the blast case. And when he said, no, he was not involved, and that's a Supreme Court judgment that he was not involved in the... So that's the day we said, okay, as long as he's not involved in this, that's the time we can afford to make this film. Because look, like, we didn't have to do his film for, we're pretty much in work. It's not that we're out of work people who, okay, this is a film, this is the only film I can make. We can go on and done anything. It was our greed because it was an explosive story for us. So after that, we met the lawyers who were handling case. Then we started meeting his friends, his family. This guy who's his closest buddy, who was his closest buddy and is back in US. So then we researched for the next 6 months, and that's the time we decided to make this film. Now, how true have we made it? That's a question which would be valid for any biography, any film ever made. To me, I think possibly this might be the most true story, because the man himself is alive. When you do a biography of a man who's been dead 200 back, you're actually basing it on whatever you read, and you really don't know how truthful that book is. So here is a man right in front of me who's alive. In fact, somebody told me, why are you making a biopic on Sanjay Dutt? He's still alive. I said, why not? Because at least I can get people around him who got affected are alive, and I think I would still get something which is relatively true. Otherwise, it is always somebody's version. You really can't be sure. As far as liberties, I call them dramatic liberties, which every film has to take, because the moment you're trying to compress 50 years of somebody's life into 2.5 hours, you have to compress many things. So, like if I've shown a friend who's close to him, it's actually 10 friends. So I've picked up the best virtues of 10 friends, or the best anecdotes from the life of 10 friends and put it into one friend. He had 300 girlfriends. So finally you put that all into one girlfriend. So those kind of liberties, and a little bit of dramatizing, that every biopic, you talk about any biopic, will be able to tell you that some things have been dramatized. Even if you look at Attenborough's Gandhi, there are certain things which have been dramatized. If you look at Zero Dark 30, there are many things. Apparently the girl in
Yes.
Zero Dark...
Yeah. Yes, I mean, the protagonist of the movie, at the time when the movie was made, her identity was not known to the general public in Zero Dark 30. And they dramatized her in many ways, and also put her in episodes where she actually was not. We have not done anything like that at all. So every episode that you see in the movie has a trigger from Sanjay's life. Yeah.
When I heard this film was being made and didn't know anything about it, I had some skepticism. Why making this film? We know he's a very controversial character. There was definitely this fear that you'll be glamorizing these criminal aspects, and I think even now people are saying this, perhaps they haven't seen the film. I feel like the expectations people have of the film and the actual film itself aren't the same. But in terms of this idea, are you glorifying these criminal elements? How do you respond to that? Because I keep hearing these questions.
Okay, now I'm glad you're asking this because yes, I feel actually pretty sad actually after the film release that there's a certain section of the media which goes out and starts throwing words in the universe. Like one of the words thrown out was that we are whitewashing someone. So media is what somebody, they ask you the question. Sometimes when we ask them the question, then there are no answers. Like it happened right in Melbourne a few days back when journalists came up to us and said, you're whitewashing. I said, okay, tell me, how are we whitewashing? So my first question to that journalist was, what do you think is, the first thing I said, look, I'm not defending Sanjay Dutt. My job is not to defend Sanjay. I'm defending my film. I'm defending the film we've made. So where do you think we whitewashed? What was Sanjay Dutt's crime? So she said, he kept a gun. I said, okay. Now, if you look at Sanju's interviews, he's saying, I have not kept a gun. But we've relied on the Supreme Court judgment, and in the film we've shown that he kept a gun. In the film we've shown that he destroyed the gun. In the film we've shown that he was given 5 years for keeping that gun. In this film we've shown that he went to jail. In the film we've shown that he's repenting the mistake he made. In the film we've shown that he had 308 girlfriends. In the film we've shown that he slept with the girlfriend of his best friend. In the film we've shown that he did drugs. He was hallucinating, he was into the pits. So if I was to whitewash somebody's image, I would surely not be putting these scenes into the film. So there's no reason. Actually, we've not whitewashed. But at the same time, we did one thing in the film where we thought he was wronged, is there was a general perception in the entire country for 23 years that there was a truck in his house which had RDX. Everybody in that country believed there was a truck with RDX parked in his house. And when we were researching, there was no evidence, no judgment, no charge sheet ever talked about it. So there was never a charge on him of keeping RDX in his house. No mention anywhere. So never the court charged, the cops, any witness ever talked about the RDXs. So then we started saying, why is this perception? And we discovered there was a media report. There was a newspaper which had said RDX truck parked at Sanjay Dutt's house with a question mark. Now question marks is like a James Bond. It's like license to kill. It's, it's legal immunity from the court. Nobody can sue them. So that was, as filmmakers, very fascinating for us. Now since we went out and in the film, we've said, this is what caused a perception and how media can actually ruin an image. So possibly because of that, a certain section, we're not saying the entire media is like that, but there's a certain section which believes in sensationalizing thing, and they went after us saying, oh, we're whitewashing. So these are the words which are being, so nobody really does a amount of research. I said, you have questions, ask us. Don't assume things. Don't write. Hear both the sides before you. So you need to be responsible somewhere.
Any other thoughts on this question?
Yeah, I mean, I was appalled to see the reaction. What I was hoping was that it would start a sort of a debate that, okay, we have made certain assumptions about a public figure for the past quarter of a century. And instead of that, what happened was that we were attacked for pointing out some of the defects of certain section of the media. And media, in general, we have nothing against. Gandhiji was a journalist. Bhagat Singh was a journalist. These are figures that we revere. In modern India, Gauri Lankesh, Dabholkar, these are our icons. So there was nothing against journalists. But this was clearly happening. There was a time when Raju was shown on a television debate. There were two windows. In they said this is a live television debate at the time of Three Idiots. In one window, one gentleman was sitting. In the other window, they were playing a recording of Raju. And they were pretending that he was sitting in a studio in Delhi when he was in Mumbai.
And I got to know that because my wife called me up very angrily saying, what you're saying on the TV debate is absolutely rubbish. You should apologize for it. I said, I'm sitting in my office. What TV debate are you talking about? So I switched on the TV. There was a break. Then I came on and I saw myself live. So somebody, what happened? They were manipulating it, but somebody from the audience got up and asked a question. Obviously, I'm not there. So I'm answering something which is completely off the... This.
And when there was an unanswerable question, how do they play? I mean, they were playing the most banal platitudes, that Raju was saying. So somebody would ask something and Raju would just be shown saying, all is well, all is well. And he appeared, clueless in a debate. So this is horrible. And then one pertinent question came and they couldn't play anything. So the anchor simply said, Rajkumar Hirani walk out kar gaye hain. This was happening on national TV.
And it was a very prominent channel.
Yeah, national TV. And that's when I realized that it has sunk to this kind of a depth. And that was 9 years ago. It's even worse now. So there was no acknowledgement from that segment that this is happening. It's like I've been a university professor for many years. In India, if I read somewhere that somewhere a paper leak ho gaya, there is mass copying happening, then why should I be offended? As a teacher, I would say, kahan ho raha hai bhaiya, isko roko. Aur jo kar raha hai, usko suspend karo. If I start saying, how dare you say that? Apne shikshak ke pavitra vyavasay ko gali diye. It's absurd, So they have not acknowledged that this is happening, and that is the whitewash, in my opinion.
Correct.
You've already answered some of this question, but just what's coming in my head though, when you attack the media like this, and I'm sure you've also heard this, but we're in a climate of, the supposed leader of the free world is decrying fake news every day. And you have this song, the song at the end of this film that we'll see here, I wouldn't normally recite this kind of Hindi. This is the opposite of Doordarshan Hindi. I wouldn't normally recite it, but we're going to play it. But when you say, जब समाचार का राइटर ढूंढा यार, सालों ने लिखा था, सूत्रों के अनुसार, साला मिस्टर सूत्रों कौन है यार, कौन है जो बनाता है राय का पहाड़. अभी बस हो गया बस. But I just want to say one thing. Agar Donald Trump Hindi mein tweet karte, then he would tweet this. And I would be horrified. He's saying this. This is exactly what he's saying. What sources? And we find out Donald Trump is the very source that he's decrying. How can we separate out what you're saying, which sounds like a legitimate complaint, from the genuine attack on the free press being decried as the enemy of the people? Is my real question.
No, you're absolutely right. And everything has a context, So you can't put a truth out of its context and examine it as if it's it's like right now in India, you cannot say it's winter everywhere, right? So in India, it's not winter. In Australia, it is the winter. So what Trump is doing is absolutely wrong. That he is attacking the media for very selfish reasons. And we are not supporting that at all. That's why I'm saying that there's nothing against the media, But in India, this is the truth. And that's the truth that we are depicting. If you're making a movie in the US, it would be a different kind of movie, So we depend on our sense of outrage. It's not universal. It's about a specific region that we live in, So obviously, you're right. The concern is very legitimate.
Well, and you mentioned Gauri Lankesh yourself. You understand the real danger that journalists are putting themselves in.
Yes.
And their lives are being lost.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So as I said, we revere them. We respect them tremendously. So it's only a certain small segment that we have complaints with.
You mentioned it's context.
Yeah.
I have one more question I'd like to ask, and then I'd like to open it up to the floor for questions, because we'll be time to get questions from the audience before the film starts at 6 o'clock. I see several students here from my Hindi subjects and from the subject, our Hindi cinema subject, and we've just read a series of academic articles, some by Indian academics, some by non-Indian, by Western academics, asking the question, is there an Indian way of filmmaking? Is there an Indian way of film viewing? And they even go, you know, about rasa theory. They go into all this ancient Sanskrit poetics and come up with this whole idea that to really understand a film, even like Sanju, or they said with Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, any film like this, you need to understand the Shringar Ras, you need to understand all this because there's something very different that's happening in Hindi cinema. So I guess my question is, especially given the huge popularity of a film like Sanju overseas and your other films, is there an Indian way of filmmaking? Is there an Indian way of film watching?
I don't think there could be a way of making films because Indian film or a Western film, or it depends upon the sensibility of that area you live in. Like India, we are melodramatic. Actually, in real life also we are melodramatic people. So our cinema reflects that. What cinema you make is a reflection of your times. So all that will come into a cinema. Some people will be very subtle and soft, so that cinema would be like that. But as far as watching a film, I don't think any way is there. Any cinema which can engage anybody for those 2 hours, I think is great cinema. It might make you laugh, it might make you cry, it might scare the shit out of you. As long as it can evoke any emotion within you and keeps you engaged for those 2 hours, that's great cinema.
Thank you, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian.
We do have some time for questions from the audience. I know there's quite a few, so raise your hand and we'll do our best to get to you. I see where the microphones are. Yes, raise your hand just right here in the very front row. No, second row. And you can go ahead and stand up and even say your name and your question. Yes.
Hello, good evening.
Get close.
Good evening. The movie is like really, really good. I mean, the way you write and the way you direct is like really, really touches the heart of people. I just felt that there was like why was not Sanju's previous marriage shown? Because I just felt that because one of his wives also died with cancer, so I thought that that would have made a very big impact on his life. Like, why was he into drugs and everything? So I just like missed this part. Like, apart from that, the movie was like very good, very, very good.
Okay, so see what happens is, finally it's a 2.5 hour film. Have you seen Gandhi? Richard Attenborough's Gandhi? Please watch it. I'll tell you why, actually, just to draw a parallel. Gandhiji's personal life is not mentioned in that film. Gandhiji had a very troubled relationship with his son, Harilal. There was a film made later called Gandhi, My Father, which is all about his relationship with his son, who became an alcoholic and died. So, when you make a film, you have to find one central focus and follow that. Now, to us, the central focus of this film was that he kept the gun. That's a story which was important to us, the mistakes he made. And the other central focus, when he was a young boy, 21, he did drugs and almost died out of that, and he finally fought and came out of it. So to us, that was a focus. Now, if you go into his marriage, that's not relevant to the central focus of the film. He had 3 marriages. He had 300 relationships. So I can make a full Netflix series out of it, So, but that's not relevant to what we were trying to do. So there was no reason to go into that path. But what I would ask you, is this something which came to your mind, or this is what somewhere you read? Because this is something which is again in the universe. Some press people have written about this, why the wife's marriage was not shown. It doesn't matter. That's what his first wife, he married her, she died out of brain tumor. There's a daughter from that, but it's not, it's a sad part of his life. But that's not relevant to the film we made. Oh, we love gifts, yeah.
Right here in the blue shirt, I see Sneha, who's a Bollywood student, so I think has a question. Yes.
Is it on? Yeah. Hi, good evening, sir. How are you?
Very good.
Good. Yeah, so I think it was last week we were having a discussion about censor board, about how much effort you put in directing, how much effort you put in writing, and all that sort of stuff. Because when Sanju's second trailer got released, I saw Ranbir in a jail, and then there was like poo coming out and whatnot, and then it just got, censor board said, no, we can't show that, blah, blah, blah. Is that true?
Sorry, what the censor board said?
That you can't show
What are
that.
the
Yeah, you can't
constraints
show that
put on you
because
by?
of, yeah. How hard, like how difficult does censor board makes it for you to just cut the scenes that you've put in a lot of effort in, talent in, writing good scenes, showing good scenes, directing them, and the reality basically. So just censor board helps you in hiding the reality from the country, from the international country, or when you compare it to Netflix when there's no censorship at all, like Sacred Games got released and there's no cuts or whatsoever. So how do you deal with that sort of aspect?
I personally feel the censor board should be a place where they should not cut the film, they should rate the film. Like in the US, they have a rating system. So nobody's really pouncing on you and saying, okay, now you have to chop this, you have to chop this. There should be an organization which rates a film and say, okay, this is not good for kids, below 15, below 8, whatever. And then you make a choice as a parent that whether you want to show it to your kids or not. So, but yes, that's a problem every filmmaker goes through where when you go to the censor board, you're like, it's like an exam time for you. You say, okay, now God knows what's going to happen. It completely depends on those 5 members who are going to sit and watch your film.
Right.
So, and at the same time, I understand it's a tough job for them that they really can't, it's so subjective, you know, it's so subjective what to keep and what not to keep. So they're usually, when we go, there are usually many debates, we sit them, we talk to them, then we agree to some things to be chopped. Even this film, we had to chop some things, then we make them understand this will lose the essence of the film. So it's a little to and fro process. That way I feel US is a better system where they are rather more liberal. Right. And I know Netflix is completely, people are finding that as a platform where they can go out and say anything because there's no censorship on it yet. But if you go overboard on it, at some places I feel now people are going completely overboard on it because they feel there's no censorship. That day will be not far away where there would be regulations on that too.
Right. Correct.
Could I just highlight the other part of Sneha's question when she asked, how does it affect the actual process you're making before you go into that meeting with the censor board? Do you feel that limitation as you're producing or as you're writing?
Yeah, so constantly we are aware, even while writing the film, we are aware that this might be trouble for us. Like even in this film, now since it's a film about a drug addict, it's a film about a guy keeping guns, his relationships, so the content to an extent is slightly adult content. So we were worried that we should not get an adult, but what we got is what we call in India UA, which is in a way parental guidance, so kind of a thing. So which was okay, we were okay with it. But you are worried that if it reduces your audience, a lot of people won't go there, kids won't go there. So which happened to this film actually, a lot of kids didn't see the film. But then you have to be true to your subject. You know, I can't, with Sanju, I can't make a film which is, you know, like a kid's film, which is, everything is happy and parents are singing, you know, loris for them. So you have to be true to your subject and say, okay, this is the kind of my content, then I'll accept an adult and go with that.
I saw some hands up in this corner, up here, just right along there with a, yes, white shirt and a jacket, and Alice, you can just hand the mic down. There it is, yes.
Oh, yeah. Great program. It's nice to know the insight of how the movie is made and all that. Now, there was a question about, is there an Indian way of watching an Indian movie? So my question is, why don't you make movies that fit into Western culture also? Because your movies are certainly popular, and I'm sure the issues of drug and violence and terrorism affects everyone nowadays. So why don't you make an English version of it rather than just subtitle? Have you ever thought about it? Because I'm sure the PK would have been a good example of people would have loved it, and you would have made money, obviously, but but then again, it reaches wider audience and people appreciate what you do because more than half of the audience here would have seen bad copy of the movie at the moment. I'm sure most of them haven't seen the original, Sanju anyway. So why not just make an Indian version while you make the Hindi version of the next movie?
Why not just
and
make,
just modify a little bit?
Why not just make
Thanks.
an English Sanju, English Munna Bhai? Why not?
I think we can only make the movie that we can make, right? But I think the English versions of Lage Raho Munna Bhai and PK would work very well, I feel. If they were to be remade, I think they would work well. Yeah. But I think we can only make the movie that we can make. Yeah.
It's a world you have to understand that world.
Yeah.
Like if you go to US and start doing something in their world which we don't understand, that would be stupid. So even if we go there, we have to understand the milieu we've lived in, we've experienced it. And so probably going there, we'll still try to do a story about a character from the world we know. So it would make no sense to go there and do a Godfather or a Superman, you know.
No.
I don't think it's, that would be dishonest.
Don't fix what ain't broken, you know.
Theo, if you hand the mic right down the aisle, and this woman who's raising her hand right here in the class, yes, you just, and the red shirt, yes, you had your hand up.
Hello, good evening. It's really nice to be with you here. My question is, as a director, like in your whole career, how much moral and social responsibilities you look into?
As a filmmaker?
Yeah.
Very honestly, actually, I don't think when I started out as a crusader saying, no, it's my social responsibility, and through my cinema, I'm going to do some social work. Or no, I didn't start like that. I just wanted to make an entertaining film. I guess it happened by chance, because how do you write stories? You write stories from your experiences of life and with your beliefs. So whenever we sit to write, like when we were writing Three Idiots or Lage Raho Munna Bhai, Abhijat would sit and just chat about our experiences, our beliefs. So whatever we believe, that kind of comes into that film. When we made Lage Raho Munna Bhai, our belief was actually very strong, and it still is, that Gandhiji's ways of non-violence can work. And it was fashion. Gandhi bashing was fashion then. And people would say, no, it was okay then, now his methods won't work. So when we would debate about it, we think, why not? So we, in fact, specially made a couple of scenes to say that those can work. Or when we did Three Idiots, our belief about education was like that pursue what gives you joy. And don't pursue something which you think will give us money. Because you would hate that profession and spend the rest of your life chasing money. You'll be looking only for your weekends. But if you pursue something which really gives you joy, even if it is, you know, cutting somebody's hair, like to give you an example, Amir Khan's hair is cut by a guy, which I discovered many years later, was even working on a film, was an engineering student. He joined an engineering college. He hated engineering, and he used to cut all his fellow students' hair. He left his college, came to Mumbai, and joined a salon. Didn't tell his parents, they were still sending him money, but he loved it, so he excelled in it. And he excelled in it, and finally in 4 or 5 years became one of the best guy. And finally he's, you know, with Amir and making much more money than he would have as an engineer. So to me, it was not about money, it's about chasing your talent, getting the joy out of it, and in the conventional way, you also will make money out of it. So these were our beliefs, so they kind of came into the film. So we don't start a film by saying, okay, now let's pick up a social cause and then go for a film. It comes into it. So even a film like Sanju, when we saw that press thing, it came in. So it's the story, the script, which drives us to say what we have within us, rather than looking for a social cause. But it's very funny, a lot of people walk up to me and says, okay, now do you want to take the cause of potholes in Bombay roads, or do you want to talk about the slums? I said, you know, I can't make a film starting with a cause like that.
Abhijat, I just wonder if you had any thoughts on this, especially since you come from the literary side as
No,
well.
it's-
Often people
it's-
say the same things of authors.
Exactly as Raju mentioned, that, you know, the outrage is within you and it gets reflected in your work, you know. So we don't go out seeking troubles and then address them. But whatever is troubling us already gets reflected in our work. Yeah.
Alice, if you could come down to the fourth row, there's a gentleman with the black. Yes, you can stand up, and Alice will hand the mic down to you.
Alice is having a good jog.
Hi, good evening. As you mentioned, there's these words in the media were thrown. So there's this word nepotism in the media these days. And I just wanted to ask you, did you take any screen test for the roles that Mr. Paresh Rawal played for Mr. Sunil Dutt or Manisha Koirala, Vicky Kaushal? So did you take any other screen tests of any other actors which could have been in the film?
I'm so glad you're asking
How
this.
did casting go for this? Yeah.
First thing, I'm very, you know, what happens, negativity sells. So, newspapers, so nepotism is another word which has been floating around for many years. It's a negative thing, so, you know, people want to know about it. But coming to screen tests, let me tell you from the top. Ranbir was a very apparent choice. I knew he'll be able to do it, but we worked with him for 3 months to see whether he can look like Sanjay Dutt before saying, okay, we'll do this film. So for 3 months, every day sat in my office trying various looks, various tests, failing every time. But finally, after 3 months, we got that old look of Sanjay Dutt. And without that, we wouldn't have worked, made the film. Coming to Dutt Saab's role, now the biggest challenge for us was, there was nobody who looks like Sunil Dutt. What happens when you age an actor, usually you have tools like gray the hair, thin the hair, put a beard, gray the beard. There are certain tools you use to age somebody, some prosthetics. Now Sunil Dutt, who is Sanjay Dutt's father, actually always, even when he died at 76, always had, maybe he dyed his hair, had black hair, never had a mustache or a beard. So all the tools that we need as a filmmaker to age a person were not there with us. So I'll tell you the amount of people we auditioned. Rajkumar Hirani, he worked 2 months on us, didn't work, we didn't cast him. Akshay Khanna, he was one of our choice. Poor guy worked so hard because we succeeded in this experiment of making Ranbir from 21 to 55. We thought we can work with Akshay Khanna with those prosthetics. My heart goes out to him. He tried for 3 months. And in fact, one day we shot it. We shot with him also. Like a regular film, went to location, shot. After that shoot, we said, no, it's not working. I didn't have the courage to tell him, you're not working, but I said, finally, I have to do it for my film. Jackie Shroff. I shouldn't be taking these names, but yeah. But again, what was happening with Jackie Shroff was a very handsome looking man. He had that stride like Sunil Dutt. But when you shave off his mustache, he doesn't look as charming as he should, otherwise looks. So, no, with due respects to him, this thing, it didn't work. Then we auditioned people in Pakistan, Afghanistan, because Dutt Saab came from that zone. So we thought if we can find a Pathani person. There were 3 or 4 actors, unknown names, which we auditioned in India. In fact, they're all in my phone, some of them, I can show you. So for months we tried many people, nothing worked. We were literally a month away from the shoot. And I said, it's not working. Now I should forget matching the look. Let me find a face who can be a father, a warm father, and who's a good actor. So 2 choices came to my mind was Paresh Rawal and Anupam Kher. I went with Paresh. He auditioned for it in the office. And I said, man, he's a great actor. But he was at least 15 kgs more than he should be. And I said, sir, we have a month. Can you lose 15 kgs in a month? And he said, I will. He said, I'm giving up everything now from the same afternoon. He didn't even have lunch with us. He said, I'm going on a diet. And in about 25 days, he lost about 12 kgs before we shot with us. Coming to Vicky Kaushal, we auditioned at least 40 actors for The Friend, known and unknown people, known actors. I don't know whether I should be naming people. My friends like Sharman auditioned, my friend like Arshad auditioned for it. And finally, when Vicky was an unknown actor, he auditioned somewhere else. I saw that tape, and if you all remember the film, there's a scene where he goes to Dutt Saab and he says, your son is going to die before your wife does. Where he goes drunk to his, and that's a scene in audition. I had goosebumps when I saw the audition. I said, get him wherever he is. So let me tell you about nepotism. You know, finally, I think this is, nepotism, it might get you chances in cinema. You know, being somebody's son, being from the family will give you your first chance, but it cannot ensure a lifelong profession for you. Because I get recommendations from, every director will call me up, you know, look at him. But it is my work, it's my piece of film. Why will I cast somebody who's not good? Finally, everybody's going to judge my work, and I want my work to be good. I will finally go for somebody who's a great actor rather than somebody who's the son of a great actor. I will never do that. And trust me, most people will not do that. So people will get the initial chances. What happens with initial chances is, it draws eyeballs. If somebody's son is in a film or somebody's daughter's in the film, as a viewer, you'll say, oh, I want to see that. So you will get that initial chance. But if you're not good, you will not last.
We have time for one more.
Thank you.
One more question before, and Theo, if you could go right up to the gentleman in the end of the row there, and before our film starts in a couple of minutes.
Good evening. So I've grown up like all my life watching Bollywood movies and big fan of Bollywood. So I just have this question from you because, you know, when you just mentioned that for me, when you make a movie, it's important that the audience should stick to 2 hours and be happy about it. But you know, whatever movies I've seen of yours, for me, they're not like only 2 hours. They're not confined to 2 hours because after watching a movie, I keep thinking about that again and again, keep moving those things in my head. And I just, honestly, I'm not exaggerating. I just live in a hangover for at least a couple of days. And for your movies, it's even more. And honestly, I love watching them again and again, and it's amazing. So my question is, like, how do you manage? Like, you know, actually, it's a very, very deep question I have because there are so many directors who make movies, who also spend money, energies. I'm sure they all are hardworking. You are hardworking for sure. I think it's more than hard work because this excellence is not everywhere. So that's why, like, how do you, of course, you must be putting all your efforts, but it's something more than that, you know. I really want to understand what exactly it is.
I'll answer that.
Yes. Abhijat, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll answer that. You are right. There is merely hard work won't suffice, okay? So, in all humility, I'll say that he's a genius.
Oh.
Okay? But there's a definition of genius by Ernest Hemingway. When he said that genius nearly always means the capacity to do infinite amount of work. And I have seen Raju doing that. I think he works harder than anyone I've ever seen in my field. Okay? So, for instance, he himself works on the subtitles for 3 months, close to 3 months. You see the quality of the subtitles. They might not be perfect. We can fail after that. But the fact that he was editing his own film, after that he would come, he would go and do music, mixing, all of those jobs, and then 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. he would show up, and it was primarily my job to do subtitles with the subtitling team, and then be there on the ball watching every subtitle and criticizing it, changing it, somehow finding the energy to do that. In the process, I have to work for 2 months on the subtitles, you know. So that is the commitment to his cinema that he has. So they say that you are juggling hundreds of balls when you're directing a movie. You let a few drop. I don't think he lets a single ball drop. He's not willing to. So whatever are the failings might be the failings of the talent. He's an incredibly talented human being. In spite of that, he leaves nothing to chance. He's very scared and anxious when his movie is going to come. and he worries, he doesn't take anything for granted. And right from the, like now we are starting to work on the new film, he's anxious whether the idea is unique enough or not. If it is seen before, he would try to cancel that. So the pursuit of an idea, first of all, and then taking that idea through the various stages for the next 3 years. The way he does it is unbelievable. And that's why he is where he is.
I think I should let Abhijat answer every question from now on.
I wish we had time for more questions, and I wish we had time to ask about this next project that's happening. I'd just like to thank you for that question, though, and I'm very happy that our final question was one that I think so
Thank
well
you so much for beautiful cinema and everything. Thank you so much.
That so well encapsulates how so many of us feel.
Sorry?
There'll definitely be time
I'll come
for
down,
that.
I'll come down.
Just to finish up, though, before look, I enjoyed this so much. It's very nice, you know, it's very nice to feel proud about things. I'm a recent transplant to Australia, and I sort of just feel proud to be in Australia now that we've been able to host you here. I'm proud of the community here and proud of these amazing questions. I'm proud of my employer. I'm proud of my university for being a partner with the Indian Film Festival for 7 years and for welcoming you. So I'm just so happy that we're able to welcome you here. I'm so excited to see this film again. I know a lot of you are. So one more round of applause for Abhijat Joshi and Rajkumar Hirani. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was fabulous.
You can end it with some Hindi. No, some Hindi dialogue.
We're all set. I think you'll have time to shake some hands before things start.
Come on.